Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Natalie and today's video is all about answering your money questions. I'm really excited for this video and I asked you guys on Instagram to just send in some questions on any money topics that you might have, any questions about money that you have, and honestly, I am no expert, so I want to make that clear from the beginning. I am not an expert, but I think it's really important to begin talking about money transparently, and I think that when you only allow experts to talk about money is why we aren't talking about it more often, if that makes sense. It's one of those things where money should be discussed with your friends, with your family, with your coworkers, because it honestly is going to help all of us as a community getting paid what we're worth, having a more comfortable relationship with money, and not making it so taboo. There's a lot of people that have very, very unhealthy relationships with money, and I think a part of that reason is because we aren't talking about it enough. Also, money leads to a lot of freedom, and no, money does not equal happiness. That's not what I'm saying at all, and money is not everything, but it does lead to freedom and it does lead to living a more comfortable life. So I think that if we start talking about it more and discussing best ways to use it, how to save it, best practices for it, and kind of have that open dialogue, I think it can just help a lot of people out, including myself. Anyways, I did again want to say I'm not an expert, so none of this is stuff that you need to take and apply directly, and it's not to say that if you apply all of these steps you're gonna become rich or anything like that. This is just some things that I've researched and I've looked up, and I've asked a few experts in the field to talk about these subjects, and also some of my opinions. But like I said, I'm not a financial expert or financial advisor, so keep that in mind while watching this video. With those disclaimers out of the way, I'm really excited to start talking about this and start actually talking about money, and I love doing this on my channel, so I'm glad that you guys enjoy these videos. So I'm just gonna get right into it and start answering your questions. So the first one is investing worth it at a young age? And to answer this, 100% yes. Honestly, starting to invest early is way better than waiting until you have a family, waiting until you have kids, waiting until whatever you're waiting for. Investing is something that you should start young, or at least start looking into while you are young. And that is because of a thing called compound interest. Compound interest is pretty much the interest that you earn on your interest. So I actually found this online, and I'm gonna share with you guys the value of investing at a young age and how important it is because of compound interest. So let's say you invest $300 per month starting at age 20. These are arbitrary numbers. It's just to kind of show a scale of how much money you could be making if you start investing young. And you don't stop doing that $300 a month until you're 60 years old. If you manage an 8% return on your investments, you will have over $1 million by the time you are 60 in that account. That is insane. Now, let's say that you invest $300 a month starting at age 30. So you're only 10 years behind. Not a big deal, right? By the time you reach 60 years old, you would only have $440,445 in your account. So even though you only skipped $36,000 in 10 years, you missed out on over $500,000 because you waited 10 years to start investing. So that is the power of compound interest. You're not guaranteed to have an 8% return, so keep that in mind, but let's say you do, that is how much money you can miss out on if you just invested 10 years earlier. So it definitely is something to consider even while you are young, and you can also start small. You don't have to start with a lot. $300 a month might sound like a ton of money for some people, so cut that down to even $5 a month. Whatever you have, just start small and then honestly get the hang of it, and you can continue to increase that as you earn more money, as you feel more comfortable, but you don't need to start with a ton of money. I actually recommend starting smaller just so that you can actually understand what you're doing and kind of get a hang of it rather than kind of going all in at once. However, I do want to know one thing. I think that you should take care of your debt, and this is what I've read online and also just a personal opinion of mine, but you should control your debt before going kind of all in into investing. So take care of your credit card debt, take care of your student loan debt, and also take care of your money habits. A lot of people think like, oh, I'll still be able to spend lavishly and get into this credit card debt, but I'm investing, so it's all gonna be fine. Where you really need to take control of your spending habits before anything else, because that's just gonna be the foundation of your money habits and the foundation of how you deal with your money in any stage of life that you're in, and it's only gonna get worse as years go on. So taking care of habits like that and taking control of your debt is something that you should try to do early on. The next question was, I want to invest, but I don't know how to. So to answer this question, I think that it's so much easier to just say, oh yeah, start investing, start small. But if you don't even know what investing is, you don't know what that even means, I think the number one thing you need to do is do your research on what investing even is. Alana Tabor here on YouTube just did an amazing video all about what investing is, and she really breaks it down for you, which I think is awesome. But I've also been listening to some podcasts that have really changed my relationship with money and changed the way I look at investing and really made me feel so much more confident in investing. The podcasts that I recommend are So Money with Farnoosh Torabi. It's an amazing podcast. She has over 1,000 episodes literally on every single topic, and she posts new episodes all the time, and it's a really digestible way to get advice on money and investing. The next one is the Financial Confessions. These are the same people that operate the Financial Diet, which is a great resource that I also recommend. The next one is Gentler Podcast. This one is with Maya Fleming. She does an awesome way of talking about self-care and finances, so she really strengthens your relationship with money and makes you look at it in such a more positive and different light. And then also the Clever Girls Know podcast. Such an amazing podcast filled with so many tidbits about what investing is, how to invest, how to save your money, and I would honestly recommend doing your research and listening to podcasts, reading books, watching YouTube videos about it before you get started, because if you don't know even what investing is or what you're putting your money in, it's just not going to work. You have to be confident in what you're investing in, and you really have to know what you're doing before you do it. So looking up resources before you ever spend $1 into investing, I think is going to be the best thing for you to do. The next question is living at your parents' house, paying for rent, or buying a house. And it's kind of weighing the options of which one you should do. So this is a loaded question because there's not going to be one answer. It's not like you should buy a house, duh. Like, it's not that type of question. I looked it up about what experts were saying, and then I'm going to give you my own opinion. So a lot of times people are very against renting because you are throwing your money away. And while I agree to an extent, I think there are benefits in renting that we don't really talk about that much and that people don't really talk about. It's kind of like, you have to buy a house. That's like the best thing that you have to do, and that's the goal, and you're financially stable if you buy a house. But I think that sometimes renting could be a good option as well, and I definitely want to get into that. But let's break it down: living at your parents' house, buying a house, and then when renting is right for you. So living at your parents' house is not anything to be ashamed of. 31% of 18 to 34-year-olds actually live at their parents' house. That is such a large percentage. 18 to 34 is a very large age range, and the fact that 31% is still living at home is really crazy, and that just shows that you have nothing to be ashamed of. It's not anything negative to live at home. I currently live at my parents' house right now. During this pandemic, I moved back home, and I feel like that number is going to go up. It's going to be larger than 31% by the end of this year if it isn't already. Just so you know, a lot of people are in that boat, so if you are living at home and you feel a lot of shame and you feel like you need to get out, just know that it is pretty normal, especially now during these crazy times that we live in. But living at your parents' house is a great option if you have student loan debt, if you have any debt that you have, if you want to save up to buy a house, if you want to save up to buy something in the near future. I think living at parents' house is a pretty good option. This is obviously assuming your parents are not making you pay rent, or they're just making you pay a little bit less than you would pay at an apartment, for example. You could actually live at home for a few years and really tighten up your finances and strengthen your finances. I think it's a pretty good option. As for buying a house is recommended when you have a stable income, you have 3 to 6 months in your savings, and you have enough cash for a down payment, which down payments can be 10%, 20%. Those are typical down payments for a house. So let's say you're gonna buy a $300,000 house, you would need to have between $30,000 to $60,000 in cash, and then probably a little extra for your savings, and then also just have a good steady income. But to my point on when renting is a good option, you might have all of those things. You might have a stable job, enough money for a down payment, and also savings. You might still not want to buy a home, and that might be because you don't know where you want to live, you don't know where you want to settle down, or you might like the safety of having an apartment and you can't necessarily afford buying a home in a really safe place. I'm someone who I don't want to live alone in a house until I'm married. I don't feel comfortable, I don't feel safe being in a home by myself and without any security. I love the security that apartments typically gives. And then also, people don't talk about the expenses of buying a house in the sense of if something breaks, that's on you. You have to fix it. If you need anything redone, there's so many fees when it comes to buying a house. So if you live in a neighborhood or in a condo and you have to pay HOA fees, those are fees that you're not going to get back either. So there are expenses to buying a house. It's not like you buy a house and then that's it. Like, you made an amazing investment and you're never going to throw away money. You're always going to see the money back. There's still expenses to buying a house that people don't really talk about. I still think that there are pros in renting, especially in our 20s. We don't know where we're going to be next year. We don't know where we're going to live, and buying a house, it's kind of a commitment, like you're settling down. So there are pros to renting that I didn't really find that much online, but I just wanted to give my own personal opinion on when I think renting is okay. Even though I know it's not a good investment, I think that some things it's okay that you are doing for your livelihood. The next question is, how much money should you save in your 20s or 30s? This one was definitely the hardest question to answer because there's no right amount. A general rule of thumb is by the time you turn 30, you should have your yearly salary saved. Say you're making $60,000, you should have $60,000 saved up by the time you're 30. However, I was looking on Reddit, which is an amazing research tool. I was looking through Reddit and I was looking up how much money people have saved and what age they are, and the results are all over the board. So I feel like those like rules of thumbs are great, and if you're on track, amazing, but you shouldn't feel shame if you aren't there yet or if you're not even close to that. And I wanted to read you a few examples. I'm 43 years old with roughly $25,000 in savings and $40,000 in 401k. I do not own a house and I make roughly $150,000 a year. I also have zero debt. I should be a millionaire by now. I have no idea what I've done with my money. I think that to me was one of those answers that was like so eye-opening to me, because $150,000 a year is a really great salary. I think we can all agree that that is not a bad salary. And yeah, $25,000 in savings, $40,000 in 401k, but 43 years old, by that point he probably should have saved around $200,000. And that's not to shame him at all, but it's just to say that when they said, I have no idea what I've done with my money, that's so easy to do. We are so easy to be like, oh my gosh, I'm making an amazing salary, I can spend money, and then you get older and you realize, oh wait, I don't have as much money as I thought. Why? Like, if you're making a really great salary, you should have a lot of money saved up if you are wise about it. So I think that's just something to note, is that it's really easy to think, oh, I have such an amazing salary, I'm good. But even if you are making good money, you still have to be really diligent and really responsible with that. Another one was 25 years old here, $20,000 in checking, $45,000 in a mutual fund, and $14,000 in 401k. He's in a good situation. This next person, 26 years old, net worth is negative $45,000, savings is zero. That's just to show you have so many people all over the place and all over the spectrum. The next question is how to hold yourself accountable when it comes to budgeting. This is something that I am very passionate about. I love a good budget, and the best way to hold yourself accountable is to ditch the automatic budgets and the apps and start manually budgeting. Some people can hold themselves accountable with the apps and the automatic budgets, but some people, like myself, cannot. So for me, I actually like going in Excel, manually plugging it in, looking at all my charges, looking at all my subscriptions, and seeing what I've spent. And at the end of the month, every month, I write down what I can do better for next month, so that going into this new month, I'm aware and I'm cognizant of what I'm spending and how I'm spending it and where I can cut back. So actually like writing stuff out and seeing it and inputting it yourself, I think is one of the best ways to be accountable with your budget. The last question is, what is the lowest salary that a college graduate should accept? And this one, of course, is another loaded question. There is not one answer to this, but I thought it was really interesting and I wanted to include it in this video. I looked up the average salaries for different age ranges and then also for people that have college degrees. So the average salary for a 20 to 24 year old is $30,628 a year, and the average salary for a 25 to 34 year old is $43,524. Average salary for a college graduate is $50,944 a year. Again, this is average, so it means a lot of people are making more, a lot of people are making less. And so I don't think it's actually smart to look up what's the average salary for a college graduate. I think a better way to answer this question is to look up what is the salary in your occupation, because I think especially students going into college, you might think like, oh, I'm just going to do what I love, I'm going to do what makes me happy, which I've gone into so many different videos on this that I'm so conflicted with how you should choose your college major, and I think it just depends on the person. You should know going into it what you are expected to be making when you graduate with the degree that you are getting. So whether that influences your decision or not, I think it's just important to know. So STEM majors, no surprise, are the highest paying, and petroleum engineering is the highest paying by a lot. The average salary for a petroleum engineer is $136,000, and the lower majors are education and social services. So the average salary for a elementary education, child education teacher is $39,000. So the discrepancy between the two is crazy. So when you're looking at average college graduate, do you see how it can it's like, okay, 50,000, but for what? I think you really should look into your major, because if you are getting a teaching degree, it's going to be hard to make $136,000. You're just probably not. So you have to look at really your occupation. As for what's the lowest you should accept, that's totally depending on your lifestyle and on you. But again, looking at the average of your occupation, and especially in the city that you're getting a job in, you have room to negotiate. If you are being offered $40,000 and you are an engineering student and you are working in Charlotte, North Carolina, and you look it up and the average is $55,000, you have room to negotiate for that $55,000. So I think doing your research on like occupation, city, company that you're working for, all of that should determine what's the lowest that you're gonna go. Anyways, I hope that this answered all of your questions. I'd love to know your thoughts on everything. And again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an expert in this, but I want to kind of break the uncomfort of talking about money, and I feel like it's important to talk about, and I'm excited to post more of this type of content on my channel. I always do a yearly, like what I made on YouTube video, so at the end of the year I'll be doing that and breaking it down for you. And I'm also going to be doing a financial mistakes video, which I'm really excited about. So be sure to subscribe to tune into those. But thank you guys so much for watching. This was a pretty long video, but I really hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye guys.